Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Baker, and welcome back to another monthly episode of Voice and Vision Unleashed. This week, we're going to talk about podcasting from an employee point of view in terms of employee training and development. Now, most people think of podcasts as a way to get in touch with customers, how to elevate the brand, how to tell your story outside the vision to be able to get people to listen to it, understand it, and value it. So, why not employees? Why not use the information that you're doing on a weekly basis to communicate not only with your customers and your prospects, but also to tell employees what's going on, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, who's doing it, and the intricacies and the behind the scenes information that's going on within your company. Now, it's a very different type of podcast, but that podcast, either with eyes only for employees or for both internal and external audiences, enables your employees, your team members, to understand why you do things, how you do things, who's involved, how does it relate to what they're personally doing within the company. And it gives them a better belief of mission, vision, value, purpose, and culture. So there's lots of different reasons to have a podcast for an internal audience. But let's talk about specifics. Now, we do a lot with internal, private, and secure podcasts for large enterprise level companies. These are companies of 5,000 employees all the way up to 500,000. And what they do behind closed doors in a stream only, secure environment, be able to tell the story of what's going on throughout the organization. These are organizations that are either across states, across countries, around the world. They can have multi languages, they can have enormous amounts of different time zones, various departments, different products and services that they deliver. And the average person within the company knows what they do, knows what the people around them do, knows what their tasks are, knows what's expected of them, hopefully, but they really have very little and few touch points with the people outside of their own sphere of influence. This podcast enables them to have a greater idea of the company as a whole, because it's not just about bringing on the CEO to talk on a weekly basis and have this grandiose vision, a mission, vision, and goals. But it's sitting there talking to division leads, talking about country leads, talking to people who actually run projects, talking about people in marketing, the CFO, sales departments, operations, customer experience departments. Find out what's going on within their things, their spheres of influence. What's their best practices? What have they learned? What are the insights that they've had dealing with customers? And be able not only to be able to show what they've done, both challenges and opportunities, but also to be able to let other people know, say, hey, listen, we saw this. This was a problem. This is what we learned from it, and this is how it can be instigated across the entire company. Now, the beautiful thing about it is podcasts are asynchronous. People can listen to them when it's convenient for them, how it's convenient for them, and be able to sit there and either rewind or fast forward as things are either superfluous or they need more information. And the great thing is, it's creating a library. You're creating an enormous library of information that people can go back to and be able to sit there and say, wait a second here. I need to find out more about this person. I need to find out more about this division. I need to find out more about this product. I need to find more about this operating procedure and be able to go back to it when it's timely, when it's convenient, when it's needed, and be able to gain the insights they need. So that way they don't have to sit there and keep everything between their ears at all times. It allows people to understand each other. It breaks down silos. It breaks down walls. It creates better communication channels. And more than that, it creates conversation pieces. So therefore, over Slack or Teams or live meetings, people can sit there and say, this is what I heard within the podcast. How does this relate to what we're specifically doing? How does this change what we're doing? How can we make ourselves better because of this? and who are the other people within the company that we can talk to, that we can utilize, that we didn't even know existed to be able to do this. Let me give you a perfect example. This is going back 15 or 20 years of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. I was working with a customer, and they were across a 200 square mile area, and they had various different offices. I think they had 35 or 40 different offices and 20,000 employees. And I went to visit 3 different departments that day, and we talked about various projects. And by the end, I'm sitting there going, wait a second here. This project sounds very similar to this project. This project sounds very similar to this project. Do you 3 people know each other? And the answer was no. These 3 different teams were working on very similar projects with similar type of budgets, similar type of audiences, not, you know, exactly the same, but very, a lot of overlap. And they didn't know that either existed. And they were going to utilize, the budget 3 different ways to speak to a very similar audience. So I was able to put these people together and have them involved in a conference call and get them to actually know each other and build a program that was actually going to be able to be utilized with modifications across the different divisions, be able to speak to the audience that they want to speak to, and be able to save budget and be able to save time and be able to save resources. Now, that's 15 or 20 years ago. Today, this can happen almost instantaneously because people gain insights through the podcast. People sit there and go, wait a second, I didn't even know this department existed. I didn't even know this was an opportunity. I didn't know people were doing this type of work. We're doing this work. Maybe we should work together. And there's lots of training and lots of development and lots of opportunities that way. So speaking of training, a podcast can be used for onboarding of large number of people simultaneously. We worked with a client, they had 50,000 employees. They had a merger and acquisition where they brought on a company that was 8,000 employees. Now, to traditionally do traditional onboarding, it was going to cost somewhere around $3,000 per person. So if you take that $3,000 a person and you sit there and figure out that we're looking at, 8,000 people, that's 24 million people. Now, have $24 million. We were able to create a podcast for a percentage of that, probably around 8 to 10%, if not less, that was able to, over a year or 2 years, be able to get mission, vision, value, culture, purpose understood, not only from the company that it was being merged into, but the merging company, to be able to get them to understand each other, to get them to understand where the points of similarities were, and be able to get them to introduce each other to the various different groups. Now, this is extremely powerful. Being able to do this enables you to be able to have the insights that you need to be able to move forward. Now, when you take a look at things like development, let's talk about projects that are in R&D. You have projects that are maybe half the project is being done in Asia, part of it's being done in India, some of it's being done in Europe, some of it's being done in North America. And these teams are on a variety of different schedules and time zones. And being able to have a way to have a repository of information, be able to sit there and say, hey, listen, this is where we were, this is where we are, this is where we're going, this is what we need from these different teams, and have it in a way, a 15-minute podcast that everybody can listen to simultaneously, or people can listen to at their leisure, be able to have insights about what needs to come next, and be able to drive the process forward. We've had projects that have been, sped up by as much as 6 to 9 months because there is better insights, there's better collaboration, there is better ideation that goes on within the groups. And it also allows for sales and marketing to be able to be on board so they understand what's coming down the pipe. Sales can sit there and have early conversations with customers and say, hey, listen, wait a second, we've got something coming down the pipe. Can't tell you all the details about it right now. If you're willing to sign a non-disclosure, we may be able to get you in on the beta test. And I think this is going to be really valuable for you. And therefore it leads to pre-sale conditions. Marketing has the ability to not only take the information from the podcast and utilize that information towards their marketing information, but they also understand who are the people that they need to contact to be able to make sure that they're telling the right story to the right people in the right way. So it's about creating collaboration. This is what podcasting for employee training and development can do. It speeds up the process. It enables people to work as they need, whether, so that way, not everybody has to be in the same room. They don't have to listen to it at the same time. They don't have to have the ability, but they can listen to the podcast. And if they have questions, they can form either a Slack chat, a Teams chat, or a chat within the podcast itself to be able to ask people who are on the podcast specific questions within a specific time frame and be able to make sure that it's relevant and make sure that they're gaining the information that they need to be able to move forward. It's about being able to make sure that you're not just speaking, but you're being listened to, you're being understood, and your information is not only being valued, but it's relevant to the people that needs to be relevant to, and it helps move the process forward. We need to take a look at different ways of communicating as companies. It's as simple as that. We need to take a look and sit there and say, how do people want to communicate? How do people learn? How do people internalize information? How do people recall information and retell information? A podcast is not perfect for everyone, but it works for a large variety of people. You need to understand there is no magic bullet. This is not going to usurp all your other marketing. It's not going to, what it does is it augments it. And this is another way to be able to sit there and say, we have a wide group of people that are either working from home or traveling to the office, or they're on planes, or they're in different time zones or whatever. And that is a way to be able to communicate with them. The other thing that you need to think about is multiple languages. And there's a great new piece of technology right now called HeyGen. I think it's heygen.ai. I will make sure and I will get back to people. It's either heygen.ai or heygen.com, HEYGEN. And what this is a software that takes the audio or the video from the podcast, and you can have both, and enables you to have it translate not in text format, but in audio format to multiple various languages. And it's about 95% accurate. Now, you're going to run into technical problems. Like if you're using a technical speak and a technical conversation, and there is industry specific information, it may run into some challenges with there. I'm not denying that. However, but for the vast majority of conversations, it enables you, if you have 5,000 people in India who are not speaking English, or people in Africa, or people in Taiwan, or whatever, and you need to have your particular podcast in multiple languages. So therefore, the people that are listening to it can listen to it in a native language to be able to make it easier for them. So there's less confusion, less misunderstanding, more engagement, etc. That is possible as well. We need to think differently today. We need to think about what's possible, not what we've done. We need to sit there and say, okay, who are the people that need to understand this? What do they need to understand? Why do they need to understand it? What do we want them to do next? And what do we need to make sure that they can take and be able to pass on to other people to be able to continue the conversation? My name's Ben Baker. My company is Your Brand Marketing. I'd love to talk to you. If you have any questions whatsoever, come visit me at yourbrandmarketing.com. Let's have a conversation about how you communicate and how you can communicate more effectively to go from where you are to where you want to be. Until next month, we will see you soon.